like a lukewarm Christian. What we were
Oh, we're talking
speaking
the car.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we kind of are both struggling at the moment with
Do we want to
prioritizing.
provide context for John and the audience?
Yeah,
Sure, sure.
I'm new to this.
Yeah. So, as you guys know, today we picked up our shirts. Drop will be released soon. But on the way, it was a duo. It was Hav and I. John couldn't make it. He was at work. Oh. Yeah. So while we were driving out there, I was talking to Hav about how his relationship with Christ is currently. They're shoving him around.
Well, they weren't part of it for the drop, so we had to show them.
But yeah. So I was talking to Hav on the way, and I asked him like, "Hey, how's your relationship with the Lord right now?" And then from there, that opened up the conversation of a lukewarm Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And did you want to provide what I told you about lukewarm, or do you want me to do it?
Kind of get
up to you.
where you guys are going with this.
You could go ahead.
Yeah. So we both agreed that currently, right now in life, because we're busy, we're doing our things right now, and sometimes we reprioritize our life, or we're not prioritizing God as much as we used to because of how maybe our schedule changed, or maybe we're trying different things, and it's kind of there, but it's not there. We're not giving our attention. We're not reading the Bible as often as much as we used to. We're not talking about Christ as much as we used to. And I brought up the term lukewarm Christian, and Hav asked like, well, are we, lukewarm Christians by doing that? So then I brought up the context about a lukewarm friend. What do you define like a lukewarm relationship or friend? Out of curiosity, do you know what you would say about like a lukewarm relationship?
I mean,
friend?
It can be taken differently, because the first thing I thought of is like my mom, right? Don't speak to her every day. Don't see her every day. But the amount of like love and care that I have for her is still unmatched, and it would be similar to not seeing a friend for a long time. And even my best friend, right? We've been friends since we were 4 years old. I don't talk to him all the time. Don't see him at all because he lives in Oregon. And I think the last time I seen him was last year. But that love is there, and he understands that I'm busy, and I know that he's busy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so my mind kind of... So my question to you is like... it's not even a question, but I guess where I'm going with that is like... that our friendship and relationship never changed.
Mm-hmm. See, and that's kind of the point that I brought up to Rob as well. And he came with a rebuttal that I actually really liked. Do you want to share that?
No. This mic falls. Hopefully we have insurance. Hav's new insurance will cover this, right?
Hey.
What was my rebuttal? I honestly kind of forgot in the heat of the moment. Oh. Was it about how I use that person as an example as a friend, a lukewarm friend? So, and correct me if I'm wrong, or if you remember if I repeat it incorrectly.
Because I was kind of thinking the same thing. I have a couple friends where I don't have that relationship where I'm like checking in on them often, but I know that they're there. I know that they're a good friend.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So, what I stated to have is like, think about a friend, right? That you wouldn't invite to a party. Not like out of hate, but you're aware that person exists, you see him at the gym, you dab him up, you have like mutual friends, you know of each other, but would you personally invite that person to your house? Do you hang out?
Just like a gym bro that you ask for like a spot or something.
Like let's say that we had a kickback, right? Like the three of us, right?
Yeah, an acquaintance, for sure. Yeah.
Would you invite that person to that kickback to your house with your boys?
No. And I get where you're coming from. And here's my rebuttal to that, right? Like, cool, we know there's God, and we know there's the devil.
Yeah.
We're acquainted with the devil because we know he exists. Mm-hmm. We know he's around. We see him. We feel him at times, right? Mm-hmm. But we would never allow them into our home. So is he really a friend or not? The relationship with God, though, should be always inviting. And like Javi was explaining, like, despite us not communicating all the time, despite us getting busy, lives taking a different path, like that commitment to your friend probably will never change. Like I could go to 10 years without talking to my best friend, but at the end of the day, just one text message or, hey, how you doing? Or when I have time to see him and like go up there and see him, it's like
everything's back.
Oh, it's so exciting. I get so excited. And so, I mean, that's kind of like, I think people start to doubt their faith rather than question like the time they're spending on speaking to God or that intentionality.
Right.
I think it's kind of different.
I guess where I'm kind of gonna go with this is it wrong for us to do that when we're getting when our lives are getting busy and we have things that we are prioritizing over God? Is that wrong to do?
Well, I mean, it depends. Is God the center of your life or not? Because if your girlfriend, right? It's a relationship, very intimate. I hope so, and very healthy. I hope so.
Not as much as with you.
But I would hope that even in your relationship, that despite, and I just had this conversation with my friend this morning, because she was talking to a guy, and she's very busy, and she's like, "How do you help someone understand our job, right?" Because my job is very demanding. I'm on the clock all the time. I have so many employees, and I'm constantly working. How do you get someone to understand that, like, even if I commit to something that might change, or like I just don't have time, but that's not me not wanting to spend time with you. It's literally just because I can't, and that's the reality of it. And what I explained to her is like, it is going to be hard to at times commit to those things, but it's not because you don't want to do something. It's because you are preoccupied with priorities. Like you have to set those boundaries. And yeah, I basically just reassured her, like, it's going to be tough sometimes because we're going to encounter those moments where we doubt whether or not we commit enough to people, right? And we prioritize these things, but I don't think those people would be as upset if we're honest with them and honest with ourselves. And I think that's where it gets hard. Like, if you feel like you're not prioritizing God in your life, it's probably because you're not.
Right.
That needs to be clear and concise. And you got to be clear with where your time is. Where is your time allocated, and are you making an excuse or not? You know what I mean? And I told her that. And I was like, you got to confront this individual. You got to be honest with yourself. Be clear, concise. Like, hey, my job is demanding. I can't promise you that I'm going to do that because of this. But if I can, I will make time for you. And be honest with yourself. Like, don't lie to yourself because you're, I don't know, afraid someone's going to walk away, have abandonment issues, etc. You know what I mean? But I think the more that we become, that we start to question our faith, we just have to ask ourselves some of those like harder questions and not beat around the bush. You know what I mean? But time is of the essence. But I think priorities, I mean, if you are busy and, if you're not prioritizing God.
There's always going to be time. It's just like how John is saying, we just have to prioritize it.
Of course.
Like it could be as small as like, okay, I'm busy in the morning, but on my way to the gym, I'm going to have a conversation with God or a quick prayer or whatever it is. And that's what I feel like I'm not doing. And we're almost in the same boat. So maybe we both aren't doing that. Would we consider that lukewarm?
I don't think so. To answer the question, I personally don't think so. I think the difference of somebody who's actually lukewarm would go with what I had originally said to what John had answered. Like, would you invite that person to your kickback, to your, to your house? I think that person is a lukewarm Christian where they know of God, but if you replace the relationship with a friend, that friend that they're lukewarm with, they wouldn't invite that person to their house. Vice versa, that person wouldn't probably invite that person to their house. So now when we paint the picture and we replace that friend with the word God, for that's who he is, is would God invite you into his kingdom if you're lukewarm with him? If you just know of him. It doesn't sound as appetizing. It's like, okay, well, that's fair. I'd never really had that relationship with God. I just knew of him. But I think that's what defines the actual lukewarm Christian. Just people who know of God, but don't really prioritize him. They know he exists. They, dab him up every once in a while on a Sunday for an hour at church, but they never built that relationship, You could dab up a homie at the gym, once a week for an hour, but you're not going to invite that person over to your house.
Yeah, one of my notebooks too, which is a good point that you brought up, is I was thinking about this. And the smallest moments, dude, like I think yesterday, even this morning, I was in the shower and I was just like really thinking, having shower thoughts. And I was just thinking about my faith and the things that I'm just grateful for. And I shared that with, my team this morning. But even in those moments, like, I just thank God for everything that I've been blessed with. But as far as where you're going, guilt versus conviction. Are you feeling guilty because you're questioning your faith and not making time for him? And that would be like, you feel guilt for doing the wrong thing rather than have conviction, which is the obligation to do the right thing.
I think it's I feel a little bit of guilt, but then the obligation to do the right thing, because that's what I know what I should be doing naturally.
But it feels like an obligation to do it.
Not in a bad way. It's like, I know that's what I should be doing because that's what I want to be doing. It's like when you're trying to perfect a craft and you should be doing these little things to help you get better at something, like almost counting your calories if you're trying to bulk and hit that size you want to hit. It's like sometimes you might not do it and you feel, am I going to make it? Am I going to hit my goal by the end of the year by falling off, from not counting my macros? But that's what it feels like,
Well, I'll be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes I do feel like it's an obligation, and I'm like
in a forced way, or
not like
guilty
a forced way, but like almost like
to be a good person that you have to.
Yes, because sometimes I'll go through my day and I know, like, typically I came into a good habit of like reading I believe the book's called like Jesus Calling, Jesus Say. I can't remember, but it's like affirmations. Is that the correct word?
Yeah.
And it's like daily
Oh,
affirmations.
daily.
I got in a good habit of reading those every day. Then I kind of fell off, but I would still, say a prayer every morning, and then, anytime that I had in the car, I would say like a prayer or just have like a conversation. Well, now it's like I'm almost like drifting away from that, but when I do remember, it's like, oh, I should be doing this. And it's more of like, oh, but I have the music on and this is a good song.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll do it after the song, but then that doesn't happen.
Yeah, you forget, or the next cool song pops up and you listen to
and
that
I'm
one.
like, and then I get caught up of like, okay, and
That's how I am with editing.
And then I think back like, wow, like I really just pushed it to the side and wanted to listen to a couple more songs, or like, oh, I'm almost at the gym, I'll do it on the way back, and then on the way back I just completely forget.
The song
And
pops
it's
back
like
up.
it's like, to me it's almost like I feel like I want to get to the point to where it doesn't feel like an obligation. So I guess my question is, how do you get to that point? Or have you guys ever been in that situation to where it's like not?
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like you got some words of wisdom to speak.
I was just
right
going to
now.
say it's like the gym, bro. Honestly. Like, at first, for people who are newer to going to the gym, it feels like an obligation. You're not seeing the results that you want. You just want the results that you want, right? And so people get impatient. They get insecure, whatever the case may be. But us, right? Like, I bet you feel worse when you don't go to the gym.
Right.
Like, if you took a week off or 2 weeks off from the gym, you're probably going to feel a lot worse than if you would have just went to the gym. And I think similar to my dad, because I've asked him before, I told you guys the farm story. It took like 3 years, like work 3 years every single day. I was like, don't you get tired? Aren't you annoyed with that? And he's like, no, dude, I don't even think about it because now it's just a lifestyle, and I think that's for gym goers who are very dedicated. It's like, it's just integrated into my DNA now,
Right.
Because I've stayed so consistent and so dedicated to it that now it's not an obligation. I think that's similar to a lot of new habits that people pick up. Of course, the initial start, right? So starting off, you're always going to be like, because you're just feeling so much. Like I'm using the gym as an example. You might not know what you're doing. You might be insecure about the way you look. Might be have social anxiety. I might be going to a new gym you've never been before. All those variables, right? But once you push through that, right, and you get to know people, pick up good habits, and just get more comfortable and it becomes more natural, then you're going to feel more excited to go.
Right.
And it's going to feel less of an obligation. And I think like sometimes, with Christianity, it could feel like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it, because I feel like, when you first start going to the gym, you have all these, newbie gains that you're seeing and all this progress that you're making. Then you get to the stage of like, okay, like it's taking a little bit longer to see growth. So I feel like if I'm going to compare that to my spiritual journey, it's kind of similar. You know, in the beginning, I'm like super excited to learn and I want to try to know everything that I can. And I'm reading the Bible and I'm reading all these daily affirmations and I'm really getting into it. Boom, 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 boom. So it's like I go on a really good period of like really diving deep and trying to build that relationship. And it's like almost like a straight line up if you're going to put it on a graph. Boom. And then it gets to like almost like stagnant and a little drop off.
Yeah.
But then
Like the stock market almost.
yeah, almost like the stock market. So boom, and then I guess I just need to find like that little like
Are
spark
you passionate
again.
about God or not?
Right.
You know
And I
what I
need
mean?
to find that spark. So once I find that, then it's like cuz if you're going to compare it to the gym, it's the same thing. At the gym, like right now, I'm seeing everybody hit these PRs, right? You're hitting 365. Damien just hit reps on 315. I'm seeing other people hit like crazy numbers and I'm like, okay. And for like the past 2 weeks, I've been pretty consistent at the gym and like I'm back to hitting 315 on bench. My squats are coming in really nice again. So I'm starting to see that spark again and I'm like, okay, the freaking mat, the what's the thing?
Clicker?
There's like a little fire under me now.
Oh, the
So
spark?
Nice.
yeah, so now
Match.
I'm like
Yeah.
on starting to the trajectory is starting to go up now. So I feel like maybe I just need to find that back onto my like spiritual journey because right now it's like went really high and I'm like trying to learn everything and then now it's like almost like a plateau, maybe slightly on the downhill because I'm starting to feel like I'm not making it a priority.
Yeah.